pulling that up. I recognize a few of you from, I was here I think it was last year. Time flies by though. You'll find that out one day. So I work at Greater Fort Wayne. It is the Chamber of Commerce. So I'd say 90% of the time, what I'm doing is helping companies who are looking to grow, build new buildings. We do it all confidentially. Build new buildings, buy more equipment, hire more people, et cetera, et cetera. And the more that they do those things, the more individuals they hire, the more that they invest. We do our best to work on their behalf confidentially to get them incentives. So, I mean, that's a very simple bullet point of what I do. So, like I said, this is who I work for. This is the program that I administer. I'm here specifically to talk about careers in manufacturing and the skilled trades. I have a few, I always try not to get expectations too high. A few, whatever, handouts that I can give you. I try to make it exciting as much as I can, right? What do you guys, and raise your hand, what do you guys think is the biggest challenge that employers face every day? Now, for those who were in my presentation last year, maybe you remember, but raise your hand. Yeah. What do you think, man?
For employers, I would say getting people to apply for that job.
Holy cow! Right off the bat, good job. Yes, finding employees, finding people to work. That is sometimes it takes a while to get there, but finding employees. Specifically in construction and manufacturing, and one other industry that we're going to talk about. So, yeah, don't worry about the video. It's okay. Over the next decade in Allen County, there will be 30,000 career opportunities, unfilled jobs. All right, like these are not just jobs; these are jobs that haven't been filled. That's a big problem. That's just in manufacturing. And the 13,000 unfilled jobs in construction. So when the data folks put that information together, obviously, all right, 43,000 unfilled jobs. To me, that was a big, they could have told me 5,000 unfilled jobs or 100,000 unfilled jobs. Like I wanted it to be a little bit more relative to me. Like, so I asked, is that a lot? Is that a little? Where does that fall into what we need? And we obviously lump, you guys may think, oh, I'm just in high school, but you'll understand that we lump manufacturing and construction together because you're using your hands, you're building things, you're producing things, right? So a lot of the folks have interest in one, may have interest in the other. So when I asked if they could make that relative, they shared with me that it's actually the second biggest industry, or the industry with the second biggest need. What industry do you guys actually think is going to have, based on projections, a bigger need in the next 10 years? What industry is going to have a bigger gap in needing employees? Any guesses? Even though I'm here talking about construction and manufacturing, there's another industry that's growing and cannot find employees. No dumb guesses. That cannot find. We're gonna have 43,000, right? Unfilled jobs. Well, 13,000 is construction. There's gonna be 13,000 unfilled jobs in construction, 30 in manufacturing. There's another industry all by itself that's gonna have a bigger need. What's your guess, bud? You got it. Healthcare. So, yep. So while I'm here talking about these,
and we're a hand raiser with our guests.
Yes. Sorry. Yeah. Thank you. It's only for the sake of, but I'm here talking about these specifically, but we're gonna have a bigger need in the medical industry as well. I don't think that careers in the medical field have this is my opinion, have the perception, unfairly I might add, the perception that careers in construction and manufacturing have. I think usually students will hear medical and they think, oh, doctors. But with medical world, there's a whole lot more than just doctors and nurses too, right? There's IT and there's therapists, and, all kinds of jobs. But they don't have the negative stigma, like I said, unfairly, that these careers do, and that's why I'm here. So I'm good. All right, I always tell everybody, this is probably my favorite slide. And the reason this is probably one of my favorite slides is typically, this is getting to that stigma again, typically when I share with students careers in construction and manufacturing and skilled trades, parents, teachers, students, guidance counselors, everybody, usually, unfortunately, thinks that these jobs don't pay very well. Now, I am always honest. You are not gonna walk out of Northside High School and graduate making $84,000, right? Isn't gonna happen. You have to do something, and some of the things I'll talk about here in a second as to how you maybe get to those wages. But if you do those basic foundational things, which I'll share with you, we also include benefits. Okay, so never ever underestimate the importance. I mean, I may sound like, you know, an old man right now, but never underestimate the importance of health insurance, retirement plans, etc. Right? One day, you may be as healthy as a whip now, but one day those things will be important to you, whether it's you or your family or your kids, etc. Okay? It matters. So we include those benefits into our bottom line. So $84,000 average in manufacturing, an average of $80,000 in construction. This bottom one's the one I always point out, okay? So the average earnings, including benefits again, of all jobs in Allen County, right? It can be any job, retail, colleges, restaurants, office jobs, every job is $65,000. So I always say pause for a second, again, recognizing you're not gonna right off the bat make 84, but you can see here, the average job in Allen County is 65,000, and these other two industries are at 80 and 84,000, all right? The other thing I always share on this slide too is I try to be honest and transparent. So A, right, you're not gonna make that amount of money as a graduate of high school, but B, these jobs are tough work, right? It was a few months ago, my wife was with me, we were driving by a construction site, it was cold, it was snowing, and she, you know, asked me, do you always share with the students, you know, the elements that they're gonna be in? I said, of course, 100%. So, you know, days like today, when it's, I don't know what the high is today, but 5, 10 degrees or whatnot, there probably are, I don't know, not my area of expertise, I just know sometimes they dial it back a little bit. They're probably doing something at construction sites, I don't know. But yeah, if it's 25 degrees and snowing, they're working outside, they're building, they're on the job site. If it's 92 degrees in the summer, they're on the job site. It's hard work, it's physical work. You gotta work when it's cold, when it's hot, not just when it's 75 and sunny, all right? So I always point that out. As much as I love these careers and want you to go into them, I always point it out. And the other thing I always share is these careers are not, this is one of my pet peeves, when people think these careers are just for males. Not at all, right? If you're a female, you can go into any of these careers, no problem. As a matter of fact, you probably make yourself an attractive candidate just for the sake of diversification, right? They want to see more applicants into these opportunities. So, good. So why are there so many opportunities in these industries? The first one I always point out is these have been growing steadily over the last 5 years. I have countless stories, right, of companies that have invested money into this community. I mean, that's why I love my job. Again, may not be as exciting to you guys, but one of the examples that I point out often is we've all heard of General Motors, right? Been around for 100+ years. You drive by the interstate, you see, I mean, again, it's something I know, but you see the massive brown building, right, on the west side of 69. Right here in town, some plants don't assemble the trucks. We are assembling the trucks here in our community and then, you know, shipping them off to be sold. One of our larger employers, really well paying jobs, good paying jobs too. They made, and this is where, again, I dork out on it, right? A big project for me, if I'm managing a business's incentive packages, it could be $10, $20 million. That's a big project, right? In my opinion. GM's investment a few years back, I mean, it's now approaching 10 years, but it's a huge deal. It was over $1 billion, all right, that they invested in this community. And for a company that's been around that long, and of that size, to realize, hey, Fort Wayne's got a good thing going, and we're gonna make that size of an investment and have it be one of their largest investments ever, it's saying something about, what we're doing. It's also telling us that these companies see the value in our community, and that we need to fill their job vacancies as best we possibly can. And the second bullet point I always point out, now listen, it's always harder to ask this question, but it's a really important one for both employers and then even individuals like you guys to understand. 24% of workers, so listen carefully before I ask my question. 24% of workers in construction and manufacturing are at or near retirement age, all right? 24% of workers in those industries are gonna retire probably in the next 10 years. They're gonna be leaving the workforce. What percent of employees in construction and manufacturing are age 19 to 21? So what percent are we attempting to replace that 24% with? Any guesses? If that question makes sense? Usually I got numbers going up left and right. It's gonna be smaller, 24% are leaving.
I like 10.
You say 10? It's usually, that's probably the most commonly guessed number is 10. It's lower than 10 even.
5%.
Raise your hand, but he says 5. Yeah, raise your hand. It's lower than 5. Raise your hand. Right here, only because I haven't heard from you.
4.
Lower than 4.
1.
Higher than 1. I mean, I'll give you another prize if you get it.
2.
It's 3.
You get it.
3.
Raise your hand.
It's 3.
3. Yeah, you got it.
I'm so smart.
I think we guessed every number but, oh shoot. Here we go. That's what I got. So yeah, 3%, guys. We're attempting to replace 24% of the workforce with 3%. So when I laid out earlier that I was giving you the average wage of these careers, and these are examples of these industries, I will point out, I've already informed, we just redid this PowerPoint. You will not, this is a mistake, you will not make $456,000 as a mechanic. That is I think there's an extra 6 in there or something. I think it should be 45,000, but don't quote me on that. Literally went back to the office and emailed them right away. These are examples of these careers that I'm talking about. And you can see, again, we did not include benefits on this, all right? So these numbers are gonna be a little bit lower. And then if you guys love your math classes, which I'm sure you all do, right? These are the median wages and not the average, so it's gonna be the number right in the middle. All right, so it's gonna be a little bit lower. But if we go through here, HVAC, right? Heating and cooling individuals, installing furnaces and air conditioning units and servicing them. 51,000 electricians, 60. You can read the rest of these, but industrial mechanics, again, I think it's 45,000. Plumbers and steam fitters, you guys know plumbers, 79,000. Machinists, and you can read the rest. Carpenters, welders, all our technicians. Again, full transparent, you're not going to walk out making 51,000 either, right? After high school. Do you guys, and I'm going to talk about this here in a second, but do any of you, it's okay, you're not going to, I wish you guys had interest in these, but have any of you thought about careers in any of these industries at all? I'm just curious, raise a few of you, 3 of you, at least. That's awesome. I mean, not to put you on the spot, what kind of job?
I was thinking a welder.
Welder? That's probably the most popular. I've done this enough. I bet you I hear welding more than anything. What about you?
Either plumbing or electrical.
Plumbing or electrical? I'm gonna ask you guys all questions. What about you?
Auto mechanic.
Auto mechanic? A few of you look familiar. Just not that. Have you guys been through one of these presentations before? No? I don't know. I feel you have, right? Haven't you? No? Man. Maybe I'm just deja vu or something. Who knows? Have any of you? What grade are you guys? Juniors, seniors?
Seniors. Yeah, seniors.
Mostly seniors?
No,
Yeah.
it's mostly
Oh, mostly juniors. Sorry.
Yeah, it's mostly.
Sorry, you have a question? Yeah, what's up? You're reading my mind. If you guys have the time, and I know we talked about signing up for classes, I mean, you guys are probably squared away going into next year for your classes. The program, if it's too late, bummer, tell other people about it. But the Career Academy or Anthus, right? I mean, I call it the Career Academy, but the Career Academy downtown offers programs in a lot of these classes in a lot of these programs, right? Whether it's the trades or auto classes or, you can go down and get credit, leave for half the day. Very competitive. You've got to do well in your, earlier years, apply, get accepted, and get down, go take the courses. If though, here's the rose colored answer though. If it's too late and you guys can't take classes through the Career Academy, you can still take classes after graduation, and this is to your question, bud. You can still take classes I'm a huge promoter of Ivy Tech. I think the programs they have are phenomenal. And we'll talk a little bit about little to no student debt relative to, and I'm not telling you not to be a doctor or a teacher or a lawyer or an accountant. We need all of those too, trust me. Every industry pretty much has a gap in it. So that's not the point of my presentation. But you could get a good education for little to no student debt. And Ivy Tech is one of those options. The other option that always comes to mind is a great partner of ours is the local 166, Plumbers and Steam Fitters. They're off of Cook Road. You can go down and take classes, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but they've got classes in HVAC at the 166. I mean, I know that for a fact as well, where it's all about, that's one of their higher growing courses that they're doing is, I mean, you walk in, the tour is awesome, just going on a tour of that place, and they will teach you how to work on residential, commercial, heating and cooling systems. And so my point in all of that is, I know you guys, it might be too late for the Career Academy, but if I was you guys and you had interest, it's not hard to find resources. I talk to your guidance counselor, sometimes just Googling, there's different ways about it, so it shouldn't be that difficult. But talk to your guidance counselor and your teachers and stuff, okay? So what can you do to prepare for a career in these industries? When we put this PowerPoint together, this is not from Greater Fort Wayne. We asked employers, what do you want us to share with the students when we're out speaking to them? And everything you see in this, I mean, we pulled the data together with our partner in Northeast Indiana Works, but everything you see on this PowerPoint is from employers' advice and requests. So the first thing is focus on your math, technology, and communication skills. All right, now, a lot of that is already intuitive. I mean, technology, you guys are more, it's crazy. I've got a 6th grader, a 5th grader, and a 1st grader. And I mean, the stuff that they already just, their school computers and whatnot that they have, the stuff they already know how to do, self-taught, kind of blows me away, okay? So I don't think that's your area, I don't want to say concern, but you guys should probably be pretty well versed on the technology piece. The two things that I always point out are math and communication. I know, for instance, when I was in school, that one of my strengths was showing up to class, taking notes, going home, studying, coming to class, taking the test, right? I don't know, that was my gifts that were given to me. I wasn't super smart, I just worked hard and studied and came to class and took the test well. The reason I share that is the irony of me being up here presenting is that if something breaks in our house, and I love my wife, something breaks in my house, she knows I'm not gonna fix it. I'm the least handy individual you'll meet. That's not how my brain works, not at all. And there are so many people that are close to me in life who, I don't want to say no one loves school. I mean, some people do, but no one likes going to class, studying for a big test and coming to school. But some people that's not their cup of tea as much, right? The thing that I've always found fascinating, when I go to job sites, I'll use construction sites specifically, and I see employees on the job site, and they find out what I do. I can't tell you how many times, countless number of times, I've heard employees say, always remind them that you've met employees who thought they were bad at math, and now what do those employees use every day? They are building skyscrapers. They're using math. The thing that also blows me away is that these people on these job sites, I was always a kid, I don't know, you probably love when your math teachers say, show your work. When I help my kids with their math homework, it drives me nuts. I've got one of them who just does stuff in their head. And I'm like, dude, you can't do that, man. I mean, does he get the answer right? A lot of times, sure. One day it's gonna come back and, blow up in his face. You can't, once you start getting a little bit more difficult, you can't do that. I need employees who are doing math on the job site in their head that I would not be able to do. So me coming to class, taking notes, taking a test, I can't do it. And this was coming from an individual who thought they were bad at math. My point in all of that is, focus on the math skills now, even if you think, oh, when am I ever gonna use this, or I don't understand it, because it is relevant to somehow, some way what you'll do one day, right? And the other thing I'm gonna point out is communication skills. Again, not to sound like an old man, but it's coming to work, looking someone in the eye, communicating that, hey, I'm gonna be late to work today, or here's what's going on, talking to your coworkers. Those are things that I'm not knocking the younger generation. I think it's a different world. I see it in my own kids. It's not something that is fine-tuned as well as it was in my day, and I'm not as fine-tuned with technology. So there's a give and a take, right? I don't think the world's coming to an end, but I'm not the one owning my own company either, so it's a little bit easier for me to say. The second bullet point is, consider taking career and technical education courses. I already mentioned the Career Academy. I've already mentioned the 166 and Ivy Tech. What's up, man? Good questions. Absolutely. So one of the things he asked, can you make money while you're getting training, right? One of the things it's probably my biggest message at the end of this presentation, is that a lot of these companies will, I'm telling you, it's rough out there, right? Great economies. Fort Wayne and Allen County are in a great position, more than you guys probably recognize. I'm biased, but I've seen enough to know that I hear from companies all the time talking about, we've got something special going on in this community, okay? His question is spot on. A lot of these companies, though, are in such need that they will pay for you. They'll pay for some of your education. You could get an associate's or a certificate at Ivy Tech or the 166, just like I mentioned. They'll give you a job. So, hey, work when you can, go to school when you can, and then when you're done, you'll have a full-time job. So the answer is 100%. Now, do all of them do it? No. But do way more of them do it than when I was in school? Absolutely. So go ahead.
Sorry to keep
Oh,
interrupting.
please. Yeah.
So for the difference between, for something like HVAC or any of these kind of things, the difference between like short-term certificates, long-term certificates, and like an associate's degree, what kind of like difference would that have for employment opportunities?
Oh man, you're getting in a sense of, now you're getting a little, I'm gonna use the word education-y on me, you know what I mean? Like, I know certificates are not as long, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So is it something like where the certificate is, you might not be able to get like a higher level job, it'll just be okay.
Right, certain jobs are gonna require, but the answer is yeah. I mean, the other example I give, actually, I wished I would have mentioned this in the other classes. So I'm kind of answering your question here. I've had, or I've seen or heard about young individuals going into these careers, and they start off just getting a certificate, and then they decide, I'm gonna get an associate's degree. The thing that I've always found pretty neat is that let's say you go get that associate's degree, and you know what, you think, man, this school is not so shabby after all, right? I mean, you come to the realization that you're doing something you like. There are opportunities then, I mean, for those who don't know this, I don't mean to, then you can use that 2-year degree and say, you know what, gosh, I actually want to keep going. I want to go get my bachelor's degree after all. So all of a sudden you went off thinking I'm just going to do X, and you then did Y and Z, and now you have a bachelor's degree. And again, some of these companies will pay you to do those things. Okay, so it's a pretty sweet deal if you apply yourself. So no, that's a really good question. I'm thinking I hit on every. Oh, last thing I'll say is, it sounds crazy that I have to say this too, but make a good personal commitment to attendance and attitude. Okay, again, common sense. But I remember talking to a large company that's been around this town for decades who shared with me that they had to fire their best employee, the most gifted employee. And obviously, I assumed I knew why, but I asked why. He said he wouldn't come to work on time, or he wasn't reliable. So if I've got an employee that's not showing up to work on time, or coming in late, or not giving notice, he said I had to do something about it, you know. And he said if those other colleagues of his see him showing up to work late, they're gonna say, all right, well, I can do the same thing. He said we couldn't afford that anymore. I had to let that individual go for the sake of morale throughout the entire company. So, I mean, not to sound like, you know, old Scrooge. Show up to class on time. I always use the analogy of sports. I'm sure a lot of you do sports or band or something, right? If you're on a sports team, your coach wants you to practice at 5:30. You don't show up to practice at 5:45, and that's just not going to happen. You're not going to be playing. You're going to be benched. You're going to get in trouble. You're going to run, etc. So not that sports is not important. This is way more important, right? That's why I always tell my kids you're going to play something and do something in school besides go to school, because I think it's important to manage your time and figure out what you're going to do and how you're going to prioritize it and get it done. So, resume and interviewing tips. I guess the thing that I love coming, like I've heard her interject a few times in a good way about coming to these specific classes. Sometimes I'll go into classes and talk about like resumes, and people are like, students are like, I'm in high school, I don't need a resume. Like again, this information is coming from employers, not from us. And the fact she's already gotten, I mean, I sincerely mean this. You guys are already working on these things and talking about it. I hope you remember it. I just told her that before class, because you're gonna be a leg up on everybody else who hasn't done this stuff in high school, okay? So, and please interject at any point, by the way.
Well, so then when we're GNAPPing, right, we remember GNAPPs. So for our affiliation, we say we're JAG students at Northside. Yeah. So what does that tell our employer? That you have a leg up? Because JAG teaches these skills that not everyone necessarily learns. Yes, perfect. You have employability skills. You are employable and you've been directly taught a variety of soft and employable skills.
So on that resume, again, coming from the employers, I've already talked about a lot of this stuff, right? Again, I don't want to say it's common sense. You have resources here, guidance counselors, mentors, the internet. Don't plagiarize, but you can get ideas by Googling resumes to see what are some things I should possibly mention. And these are the things the employers told us that they needed or they're looking for. Let's say another hypothetical that I like to go through. Let's say though that you graduate high school and you never had a chance to take classes at the academy. And I will be honest, let's say you never took classes at Ivy Tech or the 166, or there's other resources out there that you can go take courses. And you decided to enter the workforce. Again, you can do that. In today's market, you'll probably find a job. But the lower the skill job, the less money you're gonna make, which, you know, just telling you, I mean, not that money's everything, but you wanna make a good living, right? But, that being said, that's the hypothetical we have. And you're gonna go in, I mean, heck, even if you have taken classes at Ivy Tech or the other resources, if you're applying to a job that's technical, hands-on in nature, any of the ones we've already talked about, trying to make your resume tailored to the job you're applying for. So if you enjoy, we always use this one so you guys can understand it, working on cars, you're using your hands. If you're applying to a manufacturing job, yes, they're not the same, but if I'm an employer and I say, oh, look, this kid took classes, she took classes at Ivy Tech and enjoys working on cars, you know what? Sounds like someone we want to interview, okay? So put those things on your resume and highlight your work history. I mean, sometimes I'll have, or your volunteer experience. I know she's talked about that too. But if it's a part-time job at a restaurant, I mean, I worked at a parks department program. That's why I paid my way through undergrad. Highlight those things on your resume because it shows, hey, this individual has a work ethic, or your sports, anything. I forget what else you had mentioned on the resume. That was.
You know how we did chores on our resume?
Mm-hmm.
What did we write it as? Does anybody remember?
If you didn't have a job, you say
Yes.
volunteering.
Yeah, that is true, but what did we title it as? So instead of just writing chores, like working for my mom, what did we put to make it sound a little more professional?
Volunteering.
It's 2 words. Household,
Household,
Maintain.
task.
Yeah.
close-ish,
Household task.
closer,
That's
starts with an R.
responsibilities.
Yep, household responsibilities. Yeah. So does that sound a little more professional than saying, I take the trash out for my mom?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's those little wordsmithing things, like, I'll remember that, like, that sounds, you guys may take it for granted again, but I'll remember that example as I go, I mean, as I've done this presentation enough and have employers do it, I hear these kinds of things and I'll steal it and I'll share it with other students down the road, I think it's awesome. I'm good. So resume and interviewing tips, more items that you guys, like, need to consider. This could be for part-time jobs too, not just your full-time career. But before you walk in, I do this when I go and meet with companies at the chamber. I'm gonna walk into a company, I'm not gonna walk in blindly. I'm gonna know, all right, what do they make, or what do they do, or what do they sell? I mean, any of the above, right? How long they've been in business. I'll read the About Us section. I mean, that gives you, every website's pretty much got an About Us section. Gives you a good grasp and summary of what they do. I mean, you have cell phones, a lot of you, at your fingertips. Worst case scenario, which hopefully you're not doing this, but in the parking lot, at least pull it up on your phone for 5 minutes. Walk in there and have a somewhat of an idea of what they do, because it's gonna show that employer that you took this little bit of time to understand what they do. It makes you look prepared and intelligent, right? And it shows that you care. A lot of times they just, don't just be a body showing up, going through the motions. Make a good first impression. I always, you don't need to get there 45 minutes early, right? But get there 10 minutes early. Build in some wiggle room time. I mean, you may run into traffic. You may run into, I mean, stuff happens. I mean, if you're sincere and genuine and truthful, I think the employer's gonna recognize that. But arrive early, dress appropriately, don't wear, some of the things I've heard, it's kinda like, again, I can't believe I even have to like reference it, but don't wear shorts, don't wear flip-flops. And the biggest one is, me. That's, you've been trained well. If you, let's say you have it on you, right? And you think, oh, I forgot, turn it off. I mean, I would never want to be in an interview as an individual interviewee or someone doing the interview hearing a cell phone call. It's just, I don't know, I'm old school, so I don't want to hear it. Turn it off, all right? And let's say it goes off, apologize and turn it off. Don't get it out and look at it, all right? Just,
And do we have professional ringtones? Are they like songs?
man.
Yeah, so if we know we don't have a professional ringtone, or like, professional ringer, it better not go off at all.
Smile, make good eye contact, shake their hand. I tell my kids, I mean, not that I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I tell them all the time, guys, just, and they're, like I said, they're young, it's grade school. But I said, just work hard, treat people with respect, be compassionate, shake their hand, look them in the eye. That'll get you further than, you're already at Head Start, all right? Sounds nuts, but that's where we're at, right? We gotta work on these foundational skills. Be prepared with information you wanna share. Man, this one snuck up on me. Be prepared with information you wanna share. Have questions ready to go, right? You know, just about the company, obviously you're gonna know what they do, hopefully, but about the culture, I mean, you get the idea. Just have some general questions. That way, when they ask you, do you have any questions, you're not like, no, I'm good. Again, you added some stuff to all of these, so if you have more.
Yeah, so when is that a trick question? When they're like, do you have any questions for me? Yeah, we always say yes, right? You be saying no, it's worked out so far. Yeah, alright, let me tell you something, it might not work out eventually. Later in life. So does anyone remember like what's one tagline question we could just have in our back pocket? how much y'all pay. So when do we think the appropriate time to talk about pay is?
When you get the job.
So after you're offered the job, before you accept it. So you better know what you're accepting, right? You should talk about pay before you accept the job, but after they offer it to you, in between, before you accept it, that's when we're gonna ask about pay. How about, what is the most important skill for a successful employee? Yeah, what does a work day look like? Yeah, day in the life, yeah, either of those, like for a successful employee, that kind of stuff. Yeah, those are all perfect.
And the last one that I'll mention, and kind of what she's saying is be positive. Another one that I would ask is, tell me, she's right. I mean, I don't wanna say that employers are like evil, that's not my, I think we're just making sure, they're making sure that, are you gonna fit what they're looking for? So they may ask, hey, what are some of your flaws, right? Just don't start saying stuff, I always say, don't start saying, I never show up things on time. Like, dude, don't say that, right? Go ahead, good question.
If you do have flaws, like make it seem like you're like trying to fix those flaws. Like if you say you have a bad thing with punctuality, but say that, oh yeah, got my time, but I'm doing this to work on it.
Well, yeah, that is correct. Try to make a negative a positive, is what I always say, just like he's saying. I mean, my favorite one, I mean, this is not that I'm not a perfectionist, but sometimes I get too caught up in the details and the weeds, so I'm not as efficient as I need to be. So you could say something like, sometimes I need to speed up on the amount of work that I do, because I'm too detail oriented. And I mean, I think that is a flaw, but it's not gonna be something that's gonna be like, oh, I can't hire this person, they're gonna appreciate someone who's detail oriented, they're gonna wanna also make sure they get their stuff done, so. Yeah, just stuff to consider, right? Don't ever talk, if you had a job before, or a teacher that you struggled with, or coworkers or teammates that you struggled with, don't ever go on a 3-minute rampage about how bad your previous experiences were, right? Also a red flag. Again, a lot of it could be true, but if I'm an employer, I don't wanna hear about how bad it was for 3 minutes, because it's also gonna say maybe that person is contributing to some of the problems, so. Right, this next slide is right, I think you had asked a question. Probably the most important slide. So regardless of where you go, where you do the education, or when you get a job, right? If you enjoy working with your hands and making things, consider a career in these two industries. I've already mentioned the opportunity for tuition assistance, so you can get training and make money. In other words, the basic summary, the majority of these careers in manufacturing and construction, you have good wages, little to no student debt. The example I always give, I didn't share this one already, I don't know how teachers do it, because I don't think I shared this story. I paid my way through undergrad, I'm proud of it, not ashamed to brag about it, because I worked my tail off, lived at home with my parents, had part-time jobs, paying off my undergrad, had no student debt after my time at IPFW. And then all my mentors meant well, went to law school for a year, did fine, had like all B's. But I took out a student loan, I'm very transparent, I took out a student loan for $40,000, okay? Now, again, that number may be hard for you to grasp your mind around, because, I mean, you guys are in high school. But that payment is $514 every month, right? It's more than a car payment, that's more than my kid's tuition, that's more than, I mean, when we can't go on vacation as much, it's a huge chunk of money that I have to fork over every month. And I've not even cut that loan in half yet. So just, again, not telling you not to go to a 4-year school, I'm not. Please do it if that's where you want to go to. It's a great opportunity to make a good living. I'm just also saying there are other opportunities out there that you don't have that mountain to climb as well. So I'm good. I think a lot of it, just for sake of time, I'm good on that one. The one other thing I'll mention, if you guys go to, there's a few of you in this class, if you have interest in any of these industries, and I'm serious, if there's one scholarship to remember that's easy, you're gonna have to maybe pay for equipment, supplies, safety equipment, goggles, glasses, boots, tests, exams, books, you get the point. There's a lot of expenses that add up. This application is shockingly easy. We started it a few years ago not knowing if we'd get many applicants. I think we're at about 40 individuals who received it. And when I say it's really easy, it's 10 minutes of your time, I bet, if that. Just Google, you can Google Made by Me Scholarship. The web address is down here on the Cuesta Foundation website. So just Google it, you'll find it, it's easy, okay? And it can, $1,000 is, I would do it if I was in your shoes. And I don't mean, I feel bad interrupting you, go on, yep. This next one, there are a couple more. These are more valuable, like in the sense of monetary amount. There's, I believe there's some essays or a little bit more of an application to it, hence the higher dollar value. But you can go to the BCA's website or the Kinder's website and you can find these scholarships out there to take advantage of and apply for. So, and I think that should leave a few minutes for questions if you have them. I don't think there's anything else. Awesome. You guys were great. So
let's do questions, and then also too, I forgot, oh yeah, thank you, Brian. Also too, I forgot at the beginning to ask if anyone would like to take a nap for our guests, so maybe we can backtrack. If you'd like to guess, anybody else? We'll go our JAG one for it.
My name is Ray O'Cloakon. I'm a student at Northside High School, and I'm also a student for JAG. And I just wanted to know, you already explained everything, but yeah.
that is, I mean,
Just
that,
wanted to introduce myself.
Yep.
There you go.
I was gonna say, that is awesome.
If we would start at the beginning.
Yeah, right.
Do you
More
want that
natural.
cash or in your account? Anybody else would like to go? No. Any questions?
Awesome.
So all great about it? Okay, we got a couple
You
minutes.
guys are great. Yep, a couple minutes. Winding down.
Come on, look, bro.